Hello, welcome to a lesson on parallel lines, transversals, and angles. So you saw on the previous page that if we have a pair of parallel lines, let me draw that in here. Here's my first line. Here's my second line. I'll indicate that they're parallel by putting an extra arrow on those. Use your imagination. When we have these lines, we can have something called a transversal. A transversal is a line that will intersect both of those given parallel lines. It doesn't even have to be parallel, but in this case, parallel lines. First, though, I'm going to give you some vocabulary. So this portion that's between these lines right here, we're going to call that the interior portion, or the part inside, interior. I'm going to label that interior. All right, the part that is outside of those two parallel lines. Now you have to use your imagination, of course, that the parallel lines go forever, would be called the exterior. So we have an exterior actually on both sides of the parallel lines. This is important to remember, interior versus exterior, when we start giving angles names in just a few minutes. All right, so let's take a look at what happens when you have a transversal that goes across these two parallel lines. Let me draw that in. So if you have a transversal would look like this, all right, where it intersects both of the given lines that I had already. We create a whole bunch of different angles, okay? So there's visibly 8 different angles. We have 4 what we're going to call interior angles. Let me label those. This is an interior angle, this is an interior angle, this is an interior angle, and this is an interior angle. Now, it turns out, and you'll see later, that these 2 angles are equivalent, or they're congruent, and then these 2 angles are also congruent. And it might be kind of evident just by looking at it, but you can examine that later. Those are all the interior angles, and they have names. You can call these, like, these are on the same side, so those are called same side interior angles. These 2 are also on the same side. They're called same side interior angles. If they're not on the same side, so if you take a look at this one versus this one, these 2 that are equivalent to each other or congruent to one another, those are called alternate interior angles. Alternate meaning opposite sides of the transversal, okay? So either have the same side of the transversal or alternate or opposite sides of the transversal. The other angles that we have in the picture are exterior angles. They're outside of the parallel lines. Let's draw some of those. We have an angle here. I'm going to put 3 marks on that. Actually, I'm not going to. I'm going to change my mind. It's actually a vertical angle to the one that we've already marked with 1 mark. So I'm going to put 1 mark there. And then we have an equivalent exterior angle there. Those are what we call exterior angles because they're outside the parallel lines, and they're actually on both sides of the transversal. So those are called alternate exterior angles. So the names do make sense, but it does take a little bit to get used to the vocabulary. Then we likewise have the angle here and angle here that are also alternate exterior angles. Let's take a look briefly on GeoGebra. When you construct parallel lines, you don't want to guess. You don't want to draw a line and then draw another line and just hope that it looks parallel, because what you'll find out is if you zoom out, that eventually, and you can start to see on the left, that they actually intersect. So no hopeful parallels, okay? What you want to do is you want to construct the other parallel line through a given point as shown before. So when you go to your More Tools, construct a parallel line through a given point. All right, now that's purposefully made to be parallel. Then when you have a transversal line, you can start to explore all of those angles, and I'll have you do that a little bit later.